Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again, and I'm going to do a quick follow-up to this TSA business. And this is not going to do so much with my personal outrage this time. It basically is what it is, and people are seeing it for what it is, thankfully enough, with a few exceptions. And I'm going to talk about one of these exceptions right now. As I stated previously, the primary voices basically circling the wagons in favor of the current procedures, the groping, the molestation, and the child abuse perpetuated by the TSA are to be found on the political left, and even on the so-called fringe left, at least as far as fringe left independent media. I know that within the libertarian left, there is generally a good solid resistance to this, but among the establishment left, both be it center left and far left, everybody's circling the wagons, and the primary reason for this is to protect the cult of the fledgling, or should I say failing, actually, cult of personality Barack Obama. I've linked to an article at TruthOut.org, one of the many bastions of far-left radical politics on the web, alongside the Daily Kos, Democratic Underground, and a couple others. And I'm just going to read a few snippets from this article just to give you an idea of what's going on here. This is basically classic textbook gatekeeper disinformation at work here. For the last several days, I have been trying to locate what would appear to be the appropriate and necessary level of angst and fury over the issue of heavy-handed TSA searches at airports. I say appropriate and necessary because, well, all the noise surrounding the matter seemed to suggest I have no alternative other than outrage, and if I fail to react that way, I am some sort of dupe, a fool who doesn't understand the constitutional issues at hand, or the dangers represented by what has been described as a glaring governmental overreach. Red flags are already going up within the first paragraph of this op-ed that's been written by William Rivers Pitt, who is one of the more idiotic members of the journalistic staff on this website, but I'm going to continue on now. Interestingly enough, this opinion is being clarioned from the far reaches of both sides of the left-right spectrum. The electronic left, blogs, online news, and commentary sites like TruthOut and message boards is up in arms over the violations they see involved in the TSA screening process. On the right, the hue and cry is at an equal, if not higher, decibel. I would argue it's at a higher decibel, and I count myself in that particular camp, but for different reasons, obviously, as we're about to find out. Continuing. For their part, the mainstream media is giving as much play as possible to the angry voices being raised against President Obama and the TSA. And may I note real quick, President Obama is defending these procedures. He is going so far in defending these procedures as he has actually been on record calling the protesters on November 24th, who were part of the opt-out protest, domestic terrorists. That's right. He's referred to them as domestic terrorists. I know most of you are hearing this kind of crap from George W. Bush, but believe me when I tell you this is both parties saying this crap. We're the terrorists, not Al-Qaeda, us. Continuing on. I lack the required level of outrage over this because, quite simply, I don't know how to feel about it. And that speaks volumes about you, Mr. Pitt. Continuing. Do I like the idea of going through a machine without knowing what the health effects will be? No. Thank you for not parroting the bullshit being put out by the FDA, at least. And for the record, everybody, that nonsense about the scanners being the equivalent of walking around for 42 minutes, given what I've read, that would be the equivalent of 42 minutes walking around near a nuclear power plant that is probably leaking radiation. Continuing. Do I understand those who find the idea of having TSA employees looking at translucently revealing images of them to be out of bounds? Certainly. Would I find myself likely to endure? Would I myself like to endure the hardcore groping that is the alternative to going through the screening machine? No. Do I think the penalties threatened against those who refuse to comply are to be too severe? Indeed. And then here comes the all-important but, and it's given its own sentence right here. Not so long ago, a man did actually attempt to blow up an airplane with a device hidden in his underwear. This is where it goes right here. No matter how far out on a limb the leftist journalists will go answering your complaints with an affirmative, they will always resort back to this stupid war on terror crap, and they will bring up these trumped up cases of people attempting to blow up planes. Mind, all of you, that if we assume that this terror attack was not an inside job, we have to take into account the fact that the people who stopped it were passengers, not security. So security failed, but the passengers succeeded. So that should tell you something. Continuing. Just a few short weeks ago, the entire airline industry was thrown into panicked high alert because of suspicious packages that were either a deliberate attempt to take down planes or a test of the security measures that defend against such attempts, or both. And I'm going to skip over the rest of this because I'm tired of hearing of this shit, all right? These attempts were foiled, and they were foiled by efforts of people other than those in the so-called security community. But where do we go on? In the next couple paragraphs down here, we have the true trump card that leads to actual gatekeeper disinformation. What I do know is that the leading voices of outrage over this issue are the likes of Charles Krautheimer, Glenn Beck, Mike Huckabee, Transportation Committee Chairman John Mica, that's a Republican from Florida, a bunch of rabid right-wing websites, and also leading the charge is the Obama is not a citizen birther group, and so forth and so on in the Tea Party. This is it right here. When you have something that is objectively true and it's damaging to your so-called side, because these people have taken Obama's side, you point to the other side and you start spinning unrelated crap. Let me, guys, ask you something. To start off with, I don't like Charles Krautheimer. I don't particularly like Glenn Beck. I definitely do not like Mike Huckabee. And I'm kind of not really in the know about John Mica, so I'll have to wait and see with him. But if Charles Krautheimer told you that water was wet, would you doubt it just because he said it? If Glenn Beck told you that peacocks had feathers, would you doubt it because he was the one who said it? If Mike Huckabee told you that most houses have 4 walls, would you doubt it because he said it? This is the kind of abject BS that really gets my blood boiling. And it's all done from the so-called angle of progressive liberal politics. I'm going to tell you guys something right now. These people are not liberals. The term liberal implies liberty. And these people, when all the cards are down, will always side with tyranny, particularly if it's carrying their banner, the banner of a jackass on a flag, which is a good representation of them. So for all of you that are in my subscriber base that read TruthOut, I want you to take a good hard look at this article and just ask yourself something. Is Mr. Pitt's concern over the fact that so-called right-wingers are raising objections to this change the fact that people are being felt up unnecessarily, that children are basically being molested, and that these machines are taking pornographic images of people and they are not being discarded? We've had hundreds of them already leaked onto the internet. Furthermore, I know a lot of people have been telling me that the images in question are not really pornographic because how the heck are you going to get it up looking at that? It's not really a well-defined exterior of a person's body. Let me tell you something right now. I've watched the History Channel a few times, and I've seen people capable of completely reconstructing an exact replica of what a person's face looked like from the remains of a damaged skull. All right? With today's computer technology, it is very easy to reconstruct skin over top of those images and then publish them for use or put them in your private collection if you want to. So let me ask all of you, are any of you looking forward to being porn stars for Michael Chertoff's or some other TSA executive's personal collection? Because I sure as hell ain't. And in closing, I would like to send a nice one-fingered salute to Mr. Pitt and the TruthOut community. You guys are a bunch of effing liars, and I don't want anything to do with any of you. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.